Do you love Warhammer 3? Do you love playing Warriors of Chaos and want to take your game to the next level? Would you rather not spend years going through trial and error and just start practicing from a solid foundation? If you answered yes to all of these, then I'm here to help. Now, why should you listen to a random schmuck instead of your favorite Warhammer 3 YouTubers? That is because I will be teaching it to you from the perspective of and for competitive multiplayer, as in these are the things that the competitive community uses to dominate the rest of the players. So if you want to go and bring the end times to your friends and enemies, this is the video to watch. As a part of the Head-to-Head Discord's initiative to bring more people up to speed in getting better in Warhammer 3, we decided to take some of our most experienced and proven players and have them give lectures on the factions that they're most proficient and confident in. In my case, I've been requested to teach Warriors of Chaos after winning a few tournaments with Warriors of Chaos. Most players do not know this, but Warhammer 3 has a sizable and a passionate multiplayer community. They organize tournaments, rules, theorycraft, and play casually to test their skills, improve, or simply play 1v1s for fun and practice. I have added the link to their Discord and rules in the description. The things I'll be teaching about are all made with the February 2025 game state and the community consensus rules. So in the future, as more and more content is added and mechanics begin to change, some of the things here might be outdated. The other caveat is the things I'm going to be talking about are based on standard competitive multiplayer settings, which is hard campaign difficulty and normal battle difficulty, with the other players allowed to control the AI should a player take a manual battle. Be advised though, competitive multiplayer Warhammer 3 is significantly different and is on a whole different level than a single player or even casual multiplayer. So before you start signing up for long wars, I recommend joining Total War Zone Discord, which is more accommodating for newer players, and I've added that link here below as well. One final caveat. I will not be covering specific faction openers, because those tend to change more often than the foundations of these factions, and those will be probably an entire video on their own. If you're interested in openers, hop onto the linked Discords and ask for those openers for specific factions or lords. If one of the veterans of that faction is feeling charitable, they can share theirs. Otherwise, you will have to start just like everybody else. Now, let's get started. First, we'll talk about the most viable legendary lords, and we'll be focusing on the perspective of Archaon, since he has the most game mechanics and his mechanics apply to all the other Warriors of Chaos lords, with the ones dedicated to specific gods getting some campaign mechanics from their respective gods as well. But those are pretty easy to learn, and most of them are available in multiplayer. I will also be assuming that you have played Warriors of Chaos in single player and are familiar with their basic mechanics. What we will focus on is specific strategies that will allow you to maximize your faction's strengths, minimize their weaknesses, in both strategy and tactical level. And when I say tactical, I mean on the battlefield. And when I say strategy, I mean on the campaign map, just so that we are clear. First things first, good news! You have no supply lines, meaning you can have as many armies as you want. And you should have many, because Chaos Lords auto-resolve very well. Caster Lords, significantly less so. Vast majority of your battles in multiplayer are going to be auto-resolve, and you need to build your armies with that in mind, with eventual shift into PvP. Currently, having multiple lords participate in battles does not divide your experience gain. And if you got traits that increased post-battle loot, which we do from our blue line, they stack additively. Meaning, if you have 3 lords with 3 points in Blessed by Evil trait, you will get 45% increased post-battle loot, and your main lord will not lose anything in terms of XP or item rolls. So when possible, have multiple lords involved in battles. This reduces your losses and maximizes the amount of XP you get from each battle. And XP is very important for Chaos, since when you dedicate a lord to a god, you will lose some of your levels. Now, you will notice that there's some interesting skills in the Chaos Lord skill tree, such as the 15% recruitment discount. This means your recruitment should be done with your support lords or recruiter lords, and you should occupy dark fortresses using your support lords, unless you really need the replenishment. As a rule of thumb, I like to have 3 recruiter lords and 1 battle lord per attack vector against the AI. If I'm planning a split, like I do in the middle of Northern Wastes, I'll have 2 battle lords and 2 recruiter lords. Now, I do have to mention that this term support lord, bait lord, recruiter lord are all interchangeable. Generally, you will see people using the term bait lords for these, but I do want to specify your bait lords are also the lords that you recruit from because of those 3 points in recruitment discount. Reasonably, you might ask, what is the battle lord? Battle lord is the lord that you specifically do initiate battles with, has the best troops, and first gets the Chaos Vanguard to 3 points, and then gets the spoilers for his early skills, which increases his sack income. This lord is planned to be fighting the AI and is always a Chaos Lord, but if you're expecting PvP, then your Combat Lord should be a caster. Your Recruit Lords, also known as Bait Lords, will be used for recruiting, supporting your armies, and baiting the AI into ambushes. With these lords, you should start with serve or die, then keep investing until you complete the blue line with Blessed by Evil in the second blue skills block. All of your lords should start with Route Marcher. 5% movement adds up and is even more important since you do not have generic heroes that boost movement, so it will be very rare that you will ever reach to that 50% movement increase cap. Now, before we talk about the recruitment, let's talk about the big difference in mindset you must have when playing Warriors of Chaos. You cannot afford to make major mistakes. While AI is predictable, in PvP you will need to use your support lords and heroes to scout the enemy and be in control of the engagements, using ambushes, bait lord scouting, lightning strike, camping under settlements, etc. Chaos, unless you're playing Be'lakor, cannot replenish their losses like other factions. We do not have normal recruitment, with the exception of vassal recruitment, which is quite limited. This means for you to replenish an army that was lost, you will have to travel 3 to 4 provinces recruiting good units, which also depends if those units replenished in those territories. Your goal needs to always pick up aspiring champions, which is one of the strongest units in the game bar none. In general, if you're recruiting, you're looking for Dragon Ogres, Chaos Warriors, Chaos Knights, and aspiring champions. Everything else you should recruit from gifted units. You may think that you will not have enough units to replenish properly, but with a technique called gift swapping, you will have more than enough gifted units to recruit from the front lines. The important things you have to keep in mind regarding planning your recruitment pathing is Chaos Warriors and Chaos Knights can only be recruited in provinces with their respective buildings, and there's only a chance they will replenish each turn, one at a time. Dragon Ogres and Manticores only appear in mountain provinces, so take that into account. Darklands is a fantastic place to start making your new armies, since you can get decent 20 stack just by crossing a few regions quickly, and you get aspiring champions only where Chaos Undivided Corruption is at 100, which is quite easy in Northern Wastes and in Darklands. Do not be afraid of filling out your Bait Lord armies with chaff. Experience is still experience, and it will help with your auto-resolves and can shift the tide in an early PvP. No matter who you're fighting, to remain competitive, you must never stop and always be expanding, whether it be sacking, fighting, in whatever way possible. You should always be expanding. Your units have a higher upkeep compared to order units, but that is offset by the post-battle loot that you get. If you're not getting into a half dozen battles each turn by turn 20, you're not playing Warriors of Chaos correctly, or you're in a PvP war and you're losing. These decisions, as well as when you should expand into another vectors past your opener, which generally covers your first 12 turns or so, depends on your economy and your opponents. So let's talk about how to properly run a chaos economy and what you should build in your Dark Fortresses to maximize your returns. First things first, this is the Dark Fortress map. I suggest you memorize it. Now, not all of these Dark Fortresses are created equal. Some have very useful landmarks, but most do not. Some have good resources, but the ones you should focus on are in 3 places: Weijin, Jarnagrund, and Nuln. The reason is because those have a base gold income, which you can pump up like what you see on the screen. You may reasonably ask how I got my income bonuses that high. That information is key to winning as Warriors of Chaos. Since war are won or lost on economy, and even more so in competitive multiplayer, your goal as Warriors of Chaos is to capture as many Dark Fortresses as possible, as quickly as possible. Sometime around turn 25, you transition your economy from a war economy into a hybrid economy. By that, I mean instead of constantly opening new fronts and recruiting new units, you will want to start saving for construction and level up your Dark Fortresses and their buildings to Tier 3. Tier 3 is our key milestone for Chaos Economy, and that is because that is where we prepare ourselves for another source of income. So let's take a look at basic sources of income. It is important that we split our income into passive and active because our economy building increases post-battle loot and sack values, allowing us to sustain our armies with nothing but the money and souls you get from fighting. This is part of playing Warriors of Chaos. You're not really out there ending the world, and the best way to go is to harvest what you can, vassalize what is left, and use those assets to wage war against players. In other words, with the way I play, Archaon is not the Lord of the End Times, he is the Lord of the Harvest Times, and our crop is the world. And that is how you actively make money. Attack settlements, sack them, and occupy them if needed. Your vassals can take those if needed, and you should only take minor settlements for replenishment to complete a province or if they have a good trade resource. Speaking of trade resources, here are the trade resources you should be actively hunting for. 1. Marble. Discount all construction by 5% each. Awesome. Always take it, build it. Your buildings are expensive, so any bonus is good. This has a direct income on your return on investment. Pottery. Yes, pottery is the most important resource for Warriors of Chaos. Do not ask why, I have no idea, but for some reason, pottery increases income from all buildings by 5% each. So that's big, very big. 3. Iron, plus armor for Warriors of Chaos, what's not to like. 4. Gems, plus 1 Winds of Magic reserve for each army. This may not look like much, but Chaos has access to multiple top tier lores and can combine 2 lore passives, so each spell cast matters. 5. Wood, wine, furs, exotic animals, and obsidian. Now these are nice to have, but not really something I go out of my way to get. These buff your weaker units, allowing them to hold their own in mid to late game. We cannot complete our talk about active ways of making money without talking about farming rebellions. So you know how in most other factions rebellions are something you want to avoid? As Warriors of Chaos, you actually want rebellions, and in fact, as many rebellions as possible. Fortunately, you can trigger multiple rebellions each turn with no extra effort just by using the right gifts. The key gifts that we are looking for are Tzeentch's Forbidden Knowledge gift and Slaaneish's Prophet of Pleasure. With these, all of your settlements get -20 public order, and then an additional -4 from your construction edict. This is called rebellion farming, and this gives you an additional 6k gold each time you harvest a rebellion. This is in every one of your provinces. This synergizes perfectly with the fact that we only want to keep Dark Fortress regions, have a very strong garrison, for the very few regions that we do want to keep due to them having the trade goods that we're interested in. We simply raise a lord and 4 to 5 marauders. To ensure that your dark fortresses never fall to rebellions, you need to upgrade your settlements to tier 3. This way, you can auto-resolve any kind of rebellion that besieges your settlement within that turn. That also happens to be the tier where you get best return on investment for your buildings, since you're able to build the first tiers of all military support buildings, which increase your income. So when a settlement reaches tier 3, stop upgrading, focus on getting newer dark fortresses to tier 3. If a rebellion is close to occurring in one of your newer dark fortresses, when you have these rebellion farming gifts active, then build a garrison building just to be safe. At medium difficulty battles, tier 3 chaos settlements can auto-resolve any rebellion. I've said it before, but that is the cutoff. The only time you may lose a settlement, if you fail to sally out to auto-resolve a siege. That part is on you. For a quick way of finding which settlements are under siege, always read the reports. And if you click on a siege report on the top right, it will move your camera there. This way you can quickly harvest your rebellions for a tidy sum of money each turn. Now, next up, let's talk about passive ways of making money and growing your economy.